One of the coolest things about putting probes in permanently is that we've discovered so much more that we were missing. I mean, it's the old adage of you don't know what you don't know, and we never knew what we were missing until we started putting probes out permanently and looking at a continuous data set over multiple years. So traditional probes miss the important data, and traditionally you would plant the crop, and then you would get the data within the season. So you get a plant stand, you put the probe in, you run it through the summer, and then you extract it, make your final irrigation decision, and then pull it out prior to harvest. And what you're missing is so much important data. So even before planting, there is important data in terms of watching the soil wet up. And then you get these wetting events, whether it's irrigation, germinating the crop, or whether it's rainfall, or both. What we get is these continuous wetting cycles, which we need to know how wet is wet. And so without getting that data, you're missing the points that really matter. And if you get that probe installed late, and it's V5, V6 in a corn crop, you may never have it full. It's already started using water, and you have literally no idea how wet is, and you've got a false baseline. And of course, the other thing, if you've seen moisture go into the ground, then you know that it's there, as opposed to just having a flat line down at the deeper sensors, and you've got no idea whether it's wet or whether it's dry. All you can tell is there's been no change. But if you see that the water has gone in, then you can also take that water back out again. And then at the end of the season, typically people make the final irrigation decision and then say, right, we're done, pull them out. If you're on a big farm, you might even find that the guy comes in to remove them before the last field is ready. And so you're missing even that final irrigation data. But it's so important to know just how tough crops are watching that dry down. And we've learned so much about how to manage crops just from seeing how deep the roots really go and how we can manage them. And if you don't catch that data, you'll never know. And of course, the other thing is knowing how dry you've finished. If you're in a drier environment, the Western Corn Belt, then you need to know that, because if nature doesn't fill you back up again, then you might have to go and pre-irrigate. And this year, across the whole Corn Belt, it's been so dry that maybe people are going to be pre-watering for the first time. So the next thing is, rather than getting snapshots of data for each season, where the data in one year doesn't relate to the data in the next year, which doesn't relate to the data in the next year, because you're pulling the probe out, and every time you reinstall it, it resets. And so you've got to learn all of that all over again. But if you do it once, and it lasts for 5, 6, 7 years, then you're going to get this beautiful, unbroken data set. And that's so critical for so many things. But rather than getting a series of snapshots that don't tell you the whole story, you get the movie, and nothing is missed. And so some of the value in that data really is that you get better data straight out of the gate in the season. If you put the probe out in the fall, it's got time to bed in. It's got time to catch those early season rainfall events, or even in the fall we get pre-calibrated so that we know where the full points are coming into the season. We can capture the wettest and driest points, and that means that it's really, really good for artificial intelligence and machine learning. We can scale the agronomy with this, where we couldn't do it before. Everyone was having to spend several iterations, a lot of time trying to even just work out where the full point is. And then you had to try and work out where the refill point would be. Well, forget that. Let's measure it and carry that forward, so for year after year after year, we can get tighter and tighter and tighter irrigation templates. And we can also gain valuable, really valuable insights into the whole crop life cycle, and even what you do in the off-season, such as cover cropping and those sorts of things. And we've got more time to link to other software, so you can be doing this over the winter because everything's set, ready to go, so we can create those API linkages. And we can also build VRI prescriptions. Everything's set. You can spend the time when you've got time, which frees you up to do other things when you don't have time. So let's get on a better pathway by using permanent probes.